Hi, everybody. Week number 12 here. We're looking at APA style part two. So remember, we had part one previously, kind of introducing it. Why do we use it? When do we use it? Now we're going to start looking at some of the general formatting rules for APA style papers, how to make a cover page, what are the different sections, the different levels and styles of headings. So kind of getting a little bit deeper. And then we do have one more part three a little bit later in the semester where we'll look at the references page and citations in the text. So kind of breaking it up into a little bit, hopefully more digestible pieces here. So let's get into this. Let's go ahead and jump into it. But remember the APA, American Psychological Association, all of these rules are written in the APA publication manual that we talked about before. But when you're writing a paper in APA formatting, there are quite a few guidelines that need to be followed. Just like MLA or Chicago, there are rules, there are set styles that kind of stipulate what goes in each section of the paper, general formatting requirements, things related to headings, and then we'll get into the in-text citations and the references page, of course, in the next part of this in part three. So when you're formatting your paper, there are some kind of general basic formatting guidelines and rules that you have to follow. There are certain fonts that are allowed. Now, obviously, Times New Roman is kind of the old standby. A lot of people use Calibri, but you can also use any of these other ones that are listed right here in the style, or I should say in the size that is stipulated right there. But typically Times New Roman or Calibri are the ones that are used, but you can also use Arial and a couple of others. Your papers are double spaced, which is kind of the standard with standard 1-inch margins. And one little miscellaneous note, there is only one space after a period instead of two. So these are some things that are kind of little easy things to do to indicate that it's an APA paper, following that font, the spacing, the margins, and then the spacing after a period. Now, when you are reading a empirical journal article or even writing an empirical article, what we see is that it follows a very specific format. And so if you open a journal article and it doesn't have an abstract or doesn't have a method or results, then it's probably not an empirical journal article, right? So it's going to have a title, it's going to have a title page, it's going to have an abstract, an introduction, method, results, discussion, and references. And they have to follow this order. This would be a great short answer question for you. What are the different components and in what order? So let's take a look at each one of these, starting with the title page. The first thing that you see when you look at a journal article is the title page. And it should look very much like this right here, right? It's going to have the title of the paper up here at the top, followed by the author's name, their institutional affiliation. So are they writing it as part of a college or as part of something else, right? They're going to give you what they're affiliated with so that you know. A professional paper will also have a little bit of an author note. A student paper might have the course number and name, the instructor name, and the due date, like you see right here in this example. Your title should be in upper and lowercase letters, centered in the upper half of the page. Notice how the first letter is capitalized of each different word. The title should be centered, written in boldface. All text on the title page should be double spaced. Beneath the title, we type your name, first name, middle initial, and last name. You don't always have to do the middle initial, but it's kind of the standard to do. Beneath the name, again, you have that institutional affiliation, which should indicate the location where the author conducted the research. So when I did my master's thesis, I put Humboldt State University, not called that anymore, but that's what it was at the time. And then you might have a professional note or an author note, but a student paper wouldn't include this. As a little side note here, page numbers and page headers also appear at the top of the title page. So notice how there is a 1 up here that starts with the title page. That is the first page of your paper. And this kind of sets the stage, right? You want this to be correct. I know it's a lot of little nuances, but you want it to be correct as it is the way to begin your paper. Following that, there's a short abstract, and the abstract is on its own page. It always feels like a little bit of a waste, but it is its own separate page. It's a short summary of the research that you completed. It's generally around like 150 words. It's going to include the problem or like the issue that you were investigating, any pertinent characteristics related to the participants, the kind of essential methods that you used, the features of your methodology. It's going to have a quick overview of your basic findings, right? And oftentimes there's even some keywords that follow it, and these are going to help for like a search engine, for example. So here's an example of a short abstract. Again, it kind of highlights what is going on. What did you study? What were the pertinent characteristics? A little bit related to your basic findings. It gets its own page, and it's typically short, like 150 words or less. After your abstract, you get the introduction section. This is the first section of the main text of your paper. The purpose of the introduction is to describe the purpose of the study, place the study in the context of previous research on the topic, and then also justify your hypothesis. Each paragraph of the introduction should bring the reader closer to understanding why the study was done and what the hypotheses are that you are making. So you kind of start with the problem under investigation. You're going to go over all the theories and past research, anything that's relevant to what you're discussing, how current study that you're doing is going to relate to that past research, kind of linking them together. You're going to go over your hypotheses and your predictions specific to the study that you are doing. This requires a lot of research on your part. This is where you're reading through a bunch of other articles, collecting all of that like theory and information, and then you're going to connect it to your research that you are about to do. After the introduction, you have the methods section. You explain in detail how you conducted the study. And this is going to allow for replication, right? So if somebody else wanted to do it or take it like a replication plus extension, they know what you did, how you did it, and how to do it themselves. So it's generally divided into subsections. So you can see how it's like method, and then you have participants and design or materials and procedure. There's a kind of few different subsections here. Participants, you're going to go over the characteristics and demographics of the participants that you have, the number of them, how many did you have, how many started versus completed, if that's relevant, how your participants were selected and recruited, and again, all of their demographics. Materials, you're going to talk about any technology or software or documents that you used. And then in the procedure or design, you're going to talk about like step by step, you're going to explain what you did in your study. Now, this should be written in the past tense because you're writing about something that you already completed, right? And again, you are providing all of these details so that somebody could then take your study and run with it or replicate it if they wanted to. After that, you have your results. The results section summarizes the data that was collected and the statistical analyses that were performed. The goal of this section is to report the results without any kind of subjective interpretation. So it's just like, these are the numbers, these are the results. You're not interpreting it yet, that comes in a minute. So you're reiterating your hypotheses and predictions, and then you're going to summarize all of the data that you collected and the statistics that were performed on those data. It might have a lot of different figures or charts in it. It's again going to be very related to just like the data, making sure that the results justify your claims, all that relevant information. You're not kind of going into the interpretation yet. It's more literally the data, right? Here's where the results that I found. Again, a lot of figures are typically present. Then what you do is you go into discussion, right? So you're going to discuss the problem under investigation. You're going to discuss your hypotheses and predictions. This is where you make sense of the data. Do the results support your hypothesis or predictions? And if not, what are some potential reasons why, right? Did your study have some flaws? Maybe was it the theory behind it? Was it a flaw in the hypothesis? Was it something related to how you conducted the study? You're going to compare your results from this study to other ones in the past. And if it's different, what was unique, right? Why, right? So you're really like discussing, interpreting, and making sense of everything that you've put out there. It also gives you a chance to talk about the significance or importance and the implications of the current study. Like, where does this go? And oftentimes, as a part of this, like you might talk about practical applications, like this could be used for something, or maybe ideas for future research. You're also going to talk about limitations, right? So, were there any issues or limitations that you need to address? If you were to do this again, would you do anything differently? So, kind of making sense of everything that you found or didn't find, and then talking about where you could go from here, how you could use it, how you could apply it, and so on. Okay, so those are the different sections that you would typically see in a paper, and then you would have a references section that would follow the discussion, but we won't get into that until the next part of our APA style formatting. So as always, make sure that you do all of your reading in the assignments that we have listed under this week. If you think of anything, have any questions at all, feel free to email me. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week for week number 13.